Long ball is going to go for a touchdown. The game's over. Webster Slaughter.
Metcalf will go for the score. Unbelievable.
45-40. Run, William, run. He's got blockers in front. 5. Touchdown. Joshua Cribbs turns disaster into a score.
Sight wants it all on this one for Logan, and he is there.
Jim Brown to the 30. Jim Brown is going to go in for another touchdown.
The Cleveland Browns select Baker Mayfield.
Wow. It is Baker Mayfield.
I woke up feeling dangerous.
Hello, Cleveland. Welcome to another edition of the 1085 Gridiron Podcast. I am your host, Jack McCurry, and joining me as always is my co-host, Anthony Jokey. How you doing, bud?
Doing pretty good. Day off from work. Been a nice day to chill, relax, digest some football, prepare for this podcast. So it's been a good day.
Yep. Same here. Been a solid day. I had to work, unfortunately, but then went to the gym, had a solid workout, and now it's time to talk some Browns and get ready for this weekend's game against the Arizona Cardinals. But before we preview them, we're obviously going to hit some topics that are going on with the Browns. As always, there's something going on when it pertains to this team. First thing we're going to address is a report that came out Wednesday night from the Pro Football Network, and it's Benjamin Albright and Tony Pauline, who are their top two insiders there. They are reporting that, according to their sources, there is a difference of opinion when it comes to the future of Browns head coach Freddie Kitchens. They are reporting that John Dorsey is believed to be in favor of keeping Kitchens, while on the other hand, owner Jimmy Haslam, who is, and this is quoted, disappointed in the team's performance and would consider a head coaching change, especially if Kitchens does not win the remainder of the Browns games. Now, obviously, they're at 6-7 right now. If they were to win out, they would be 9-7. It would be the first winning season since 2007. Anthony, when you look at this, can you believe that once again that there is a tug of war essentially in the front office and in management over the future of this organization? And secondly, do you think that it should really matter if they win out these final three games, or even win, like, say, 2 out of the 3 and they lose Baltimore, that Kitchens should come back?
No, it's not surprising because it hasn't been any other way for the last 20 years. So when you tell me that, this report came out, I'm not entirely shocked about it. Jimmy Haslam has not been one to stick to his, I shouldn't say that because he lasted seemingly forever, but he tends to change things up every couple years, and I would not be surprised if he ends up winning this tug of war, firing Freddie Kitchens. And if that's the case, I wouldn't be terribly shocked if Dorsey's gone too, not winning that battle. I wouldn't be surprised if he leaves at that point. It's just the same old story, with this team and with the ownership. And, if the Browns do go 9-7, they win these last 3 games, or even if they go 2-1, they win the 2 games they're supposed to, Arizona and Cincinnati, the last game of the year, and losing to Baltimore. I'm a proponent of running it back. There's been so much weirdness that has gone on this season. Let's run it back, but maybe figure out the offensive coordinator situation and the play calling, changing that. But I'm not thing about they have to win these games for him to keep his job. If they lose all 3, he's probably gone. If they go 2-1 or 1-2 or 3-0 to close out the year, look, I don't know if that's going to determine Freddie's fate, but I think his fate, is already sealed with the fact that the report says Dorsey's behind him. So you would imagine that he'll be back next year, unless ownership gets its way.
Yeah, I mean, you can't fault Dorsey for supporting Freddie Kitchens. Obviously, that's his hire, that's his guy, and he's not going to bail on him after one season. My only thing is, if Dorsey can't see that, the team seems to be undisciplined. There is a lot of drama and controversy surrounding this team. Not saying that's all on Freddie, but Freddie hasn't been able to exactly reel everybody in and try to keep things quiet. Like, he's let everybody be themselves, and we talked about that in the preseason. And during the summer, he said that he wasn't going to, try to make these players who they weren't going to be. And I think we both said that it was okay. But now at this point, it seems like he maybe should try to buckle these guys down. But unfortunately, it's too late. My only thing is, if the Haslams are already considering it, you would have to think that they are doing some back channeling and looking at who they can potentially get. But in that case, if they were to make a coaching change, I would not be shocked if Dorsey either resigns or if Dorsey tells Haslam that he's not going to make a change, if Dorsey shows him the door. I mean, it wouldn't be shocking, but I also think it would be kind of stupid because for as much as Dorsey should be at criticism for what has gone on, especially with how he's shaped the roster, he's still by far probably the best GM we've had since '99.
Yeah, he is. The injection of talent that he's added to this team over the last couple off seasons has been very nice. But there's been some key components that are absolutely lacking. The offensive line has been a disaster. So, you could argue the back end of the secondary too. I know you can't account for injuries and whatnot, but at least you're not able to do it all in one off season. So there's absolutely fair criticism that should go his way, but he's done more good than bad. And the ultimate nail in his coffin could be him deciding to go with Freddie Kitchens as his head coach. A lot of times when you're a general manager, your hire defines you. And when he decided to go with Freddie Kitchens, that defines his time here with Dorsey. So the other thing that defines him is the quarterback that you selected. He selected Baker Mayfield. Thankfully, he's had that going for him. I know Baker struggled, but he is definitely an NFL quarterback. And when you are able to get that right, that absolutely buys you some time. A lot of times, the second head coach will be the one that determines whether you keep your job or you don't keep your job. So that could be a situation where Freddie's gone after this season. They bring in the next guy, and that's the guy who Dorsey is staking his claim on, and that's the guy who's going to determine if Dorsey's here long term or not.
Another interesting article that dropped in the last couple of days is by Bill Barnwell of ESPN. He ranked the 9 potential head coaching openings across the NFL, and the Browns are one of those teams. He has them ranked 5th behind the Dallas Cowboys, the Carolina Panthers, the Atlanta Falcons, and the Detroit Lions in that order. And he states that the biggest strength of the Browns team is their young talent. But he does say that their biggest weakness is the ownership, which is fair enough because if they were to make a coaching change, this will be the 5th head coach that the Haslams will be looking to hire since taking over the organization in 2012. Anthony, when you look at that ranking, and that was in order, Dallas, Carolina, Atlanta, Detroit, do you see the Browns being a better opening than any of those 4 or all of the 4?
They're at least to me, they're a better situation than Carolina, Atlanta, Detroit. I would the situation between them and Dallas is pretty close. You could make an argument that the ownership is just as bad in Dallas, but I think with how Dallas's roster is constructed, they're certainly the best opportunity. Look, Carolina. They're looking to trade Cam Newton, so that means Kyle Allen or another quarterback is going to be in there next year, and that's still unproven at this point. Atlanta, they've had so many issues. Matt Ryan hasn't looked the best. The defense has really struggled. So there's a lot of roster holes there. Detroit, I mean, really, they have Matt Stafford, who's continuously gotten killed up there. The defense isn't great as well. So, at least when I'm looking at this, it's Dallas 1, Cleveland 2, and every other team in terms of head coaching rankings.
Yeah, I would put Dallas number 1. I would actually put Atlanta 2. As bad as the roster can be or looks right now, they obviously still have Matt Ryan, who is still a top 16 NFL quarterback, maybe even top 10, depending on how you look at it. Obviously, they're going to have to open some things up on the roster, and they'll be able to do that. You cut Alex Mack, you cut some of these other players that you're going to be able to move off the cap. Yeah, it'll hurt their roster for the short term, but then Thomas Dimitroff has proven that you can build through the draft, and there's a reason why he's been the GM there for almost a decade. He knows how to find talent. It's just he needs to construct his roster with the salary cap a little better. But I would definitely put them ahead of Cleveland just because Arthur Blank, the owner there, he shows continuity. He picks his head coach and he sticks with them for the most part for at least 4 or 5 years, trying to make sure it works. The Haslams haven't shown that, and I think that's kind of one of the big things that holds Cleveland back is the ownership not hiring the right people, and then displaying continuity. The only time they did was with Hugh Jackson, and that was a joke.
Well,
go ahead.
I was going to add very quickly, between the Browns and the Cowboys, it's almost like the exact opposite with ownership, right? They've hung on to Jason Garrett so long without getting results, but the Browns change every 1 or 2 years. It seems like head coaches. It's just like the absolute opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, absolutely. Our final topic before we break into the game preview. This is actually a good one. They're starting to announce the Walter Payton Man of the Year nominees among the 32 NFL teams, and the Cleveland Browns have chosen Jarvis Landry to be their team's award winner. He'll obviously be up for the NFL Walter Payton Man of the Year if he does get enough votes. So if you do see on Twitter where it tells you to retweet to vote him, obviously go and do it. This is one of the biggest honors that an NFL player can get for both on the field and off the field recognition. And I couldn't think of one of the better Cleveland Browns to get this award than Jarvis Landry. Obviously, on the field, he's one of the best wide receivers in the league. And off the field, he's a great leader. He displays great character, great sportsmanship, does a lot for the community. And I think he would be one of the best individuals to receive this award if he does end up receiving the NFL Walter Payton Man of the Year in February during Super Bowl weekend.
Yeah, I thought, when I went to Chicago a few months ago, I visited Soldier Field and took a part of a tour there. We talked about it a little bit back then, but they gave a great breakdown of the things that Walter Payton was able to do for his community and for that Chicago Bears team. And that's why this is such a great award. It is a big honor to be named your team's Walter Payton Man of the Year. It's an even bigger honor to win the award for the entire NFL. So just to be nominated is a really big deal. And props to Jarvis for doing everything that he's done for his community and for the Cleveland Browns organization in such a positive manner. You don't hear about these things as much as you should, especially with all the other nonsense that's gone on with this team. But the things that this team does in the community, and that being head up by Jarvis, it is awesome to see the organization giving back. And I think it started earlier this year when. And they do it every year, but this year the Haslams gave a bunch of money to Cleveland music programs. You've seen Jarvis do stuff. Myles Garrett did stuff in the community too. So they really have a nice focus of helping out the community of Cleveland. And for Jarvis to get this award is pretty awesome. The one that I kind of laughed at, Jack, was I'm not sure if you saw who the Pittsburgh Steelers nominee, but they nominated Marquise Pouncey.
Oh, you mean the guy that was kicking and punching a player on the field, the guy that's been linked to Aaron Hernandez. Yeah, what a great role model Marquise Pouncey is.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's just unbelievable. I mean, he could do as much as he wants for the community, and it's a good look by him, and kudos to him. But his track record speaks for itself. I don't think he's going to be one of the finalists for that award.
And for the record, if that incident didn't happen with Myles Garrett, I guarantee you Myles gets that award.
Quite possibly, but I mean, yeah, Jarvis is definitely up for the honor as well. So I mean, we'll see though. I mean, it's maybe Myles gets it next year. We'll see. Yeah, let's jump into the preview for the Arizona Cardinals. Obviously, this is the Browns' next opponent. This has been, I think, a game that a lot of people had circled on their calendar when the schedule was released back in April because of the storylines. Obviously, Kyler Murray versus Baker. Steve Wilkes making his return, and Freddie Kitchens as well to Arizona. Both were either a head coach or an assistant coach there at one time. Baker versus Cliff Kingsbury. Obviously, everybody knows that story, although that storyline kind of got washed away on Wednesday when, Kingsbury said that he should have handled Baker differently at Texas Tech, and Baker obviously said that the fences have been mended. Anthony, how pumped are you for this game with some of the storylines heading into Sunday?
Yeah, there's a lot going on this weekend. It's been another week of sideshow stuff, and going into Sunday against Cliff Kingsbury, you obviously have the big Baker and storyline with him, but you have Kyler Murray on the other side, and there's 2 consecutive Heisman Trophy winners from the University of Oklahoma, and I think it's going to be a great matchup to see these 2 guys. Who obviously Murray was behind for a year, and see these 2 guys go at it. I think you're going to get really good games from both quarterbacks, and it's definitely going to be exciting to watch on Sunday.
When you look at Kyler Murray, how do you think his rookie season has gone? I mean, obviously he's putting up some pretty good numbers for a rookie quarterback. He's completed 64% of his passes, has over 3,000 passing yards, a good, decent touchdown to interception ratio, and obviously what he's able to do on the ground with over almost 450 rushing yards and a few touchdown runs. I mean, he's definitely having a solid rookie season.
He really is, completing 64% of his passes, 3,000 passing yards, like you mentioned, almost 500 rushing yards. Their offense is really fun to watch. How quickly they snap the football. They definitely have something in that offense. There's just a lot of things that they need to do to surround Kyler Murray and that offense with talent. They do have great receivers. Christian Kirk's really good. Obviously, Larry Fitzgerald is still rocking after so many years in the NFL, but the offensive line has been terrible. They've been sacked 46 times this year. That's like the Browns. That's really what's holding them back. They can address the offensive line, get some athletes in there that could go with the type of offense Arizona wants to run, which is really fun to watch. I've seen a couple of their games this year, and even the one against Pittsburgh on Sunday was really fun to watch. So there's definitely talent there, and it's not going to be easy. But if the Browns can get home and force some pressure on Kyler Murray, it should go well for him. But obviously, he has the escapability, and you've seen the Browns struggle with guys like Ryan Fitzpatrick. I can't think of the guy for Denver at this moment, but Brandon Allen. They struggled containing those 2 guys, so they might have a really hard time on Sunday containing somebody like Kyler Murray.
Yeah, I mean, the ability he has, watching him against Pittsburgh, he tried to escape. and make some runs and extend plays with his legs. But, Pittsburgh was game planned him well, was able to clamp down on him. Sometimes he gets a little careless with the football, but he's a rookie. He'll definitely learn from that. He's trying to make plays. You mentioned the offensive line, and it's amazing that he's been able to play for a guy his size. He hasn't missed any snaps. He's played every game. They definitely need to address the offensive line this offseason. That was one of their big holes coming into the season. And they're going to be a team that I think the Browns will be keeping an eye on through the draft process, because right now they sit 6th in the draft order. We're 17th. And they're going to be a team that could be in the offensive tackle market. I'm looking at a mock right now that has them taking Jerry Jeudy, which would be a great get for them and a great target for Kyler. But, when you got Andrew Thomas up there, Tristan Wirfs, and I'm actually talking draft people, so make sure you're marking this down that I'm talking draft.
I think that's 2 podcasts in a row, which is scary.
I think it is, actually. But, if you got those guys on the board at 6, if regardless of their need for a wide receiver, they have to look at these offensive tackles, because you have Kyler Murray. He's displaying the ability to be a franchise quarterback. While you do need the weapons, and hopefully Arizona's looking at what John Dorsey did wrong, you have to address the trenches, and especially up front in that offensive line, because if you want Kyler to be the next quarterback, or the Cardinals quarterback for the next 10 to 12 years, you got to make sure he's protected.
Absolutely. And like you said, Dorsey needs to do the same this offseason. It's been the biggest problem. And if both teams are able to figure this out, both offenses can be extremely lethal as long as they can protect the quarterback.
Absolutely. But you look at the skill talent around Kyler Murray. I look at it and I see the talent there. Obviously, Larry Fitzgerald, you keep thinking this is going to be his last season, but you never know. He could come back for another one. He's having a semi-productive season, but for a 36-year-old receiver, you're going to get as good as you can get with him. But you have Christian Kirk there. You got some talented runners, although David Johnson can't stay healthy, and I don't know how much you can depend on Chase Edmonds and Kenyon Drake being long-term fits at that position. And then at the receiver position, they have Andy Isabella, who they aren't using much. They have Keyshawn Johnson, not the Keyshawn Johnson, obviously another one. They got Charles Clay at tight end. They have skill players around them. Obviously, they're going to look for some younger pieces, although Kirk and Isabella could be part of the foundation moving forward. The cupboard's not bare in Arizona for skill players around Kyler Murray.
No, it's not. And like I said, it's really fun to watch when this offense really gets going. And when it does, and they're up to the ball 20 seconds and snap the ball quickly in their no-huddle offense that they run, going younger is definitely the way that they're going to be going. So there's talent there. Like I said earlier, it's just a matter of protecting and blocking it correctly to make it lethal.
As we flip over to the defensive side of the ball now, there is a ton of recognizable names on this defensive side, but when you look at their numbers this year, their defense is one of the worst in the National Football League. They're giving up almost 30 points a game. They're ranked 30th in the league in that department. They're giving up over 400 yards of offense per game. This is not a very good defense. But like I said, there's names on that side of the ball. Chandler Jones, Terrell Suggs, Patrick Peterson, Budda Baker, Byron Murphy. These are recognizable names. Diehard football fans would know these guys. Even Hassan Reddick, Jordan Hicks, who have been guys that Arizona has drafted. But they're just struggling on that side of the ball, and it's kind of hard to believe when you see the names on that side of the ball.
Yeah, they've really struggled. The past defense has given up over 4,000 yards, 32 passing touchdowns in the games that they've played. So, the defense has really struggled, and when it just must be a schematical thing, because there are some really good players there. I know their defensive coordinator is Vance Joseph, and he's done a decent job in previous positions, but this defense just hasn't been able to put it together yet with some of these guys, the talent that they do have. Like you mentioned, Patrick Peterson is really good. Buda Baker has been good in his first couple seasons there. But when you have two rookies starting in your secondary with Jalen Thompson and Byron Murphy, things could be a struggle. And that's where they've struggled the most is in that secondary and that pass defense.
The one thing they don't struggle in is the pass rush. They got 33 sacks this year as a team. And, of course, they're led by Chandler Jones, who is heading towards an all-pro season. Maybe he'll get recognition for Defensive Player of the Year with 14 sacks and 6 forced fumbles. And, of course, Terrell Suggs, who ever since he got drafted by Baltimore 15 or so years ago has always been a thorn in the Browns' side. I just hope that Greg Robinson, and whether it's Chris Hubbard or Kendall Lamb, that they are ready to go, and that Todd Monken and Freddie Kitchens have a solid game plan to limit the pass rush by Jones and Suggs on Sunday.
Yeah, those two guys are really good. Suggs has been doing it so good for so long, so those tackles got their work cut out for them again this week. Every week it seems like they're going up against a really good pass rushing team. With the exception probably of Cincinnati last week, but these tackles have obviously struggled. So if they can just hold their own for a little bit and only give up a couple sacks and limit the pressure that they get on Baker Mayfield, this offense should roll over that defense pretty well on Sunday.
Yeah, we mentioned the pass defense, and like the one number that stuck out to me was through Pro Football Reference. Byron Murphy, who was their second-round pick this year out of Washington, was a guy that I liked coming out of the draft. He has been targeted 92 times. He's given up 70.7 completion percentage and 8 touchdowns to only 1 interception and a QB rating of 115.0. And it's not just him. You look at the numbers. Patrick Peterson's giving up a 122.2 QB rating. Buda Baker, 124. I mean, there is no reason why Baker Mayfield and the Browns passing attack can't put up 300, maybe even 400 yards against this secondary, this pass defense. Even the linebackers like Hassan Reddick has struggled. Jordan Hicks has struggled. I mean, with all the weapons we have on the offensive side of the ball, like the Browns passing attack should totally feast on this secondary come Sunday afternoon.
It should, and so should the running game. They've given up an average of 120 yards on the ground too. So this defense is going to struggle on Sunday, and this Browns offense should, and the key word is should, perform well. But there's things obviously you can't account for. You can't account for turnovers and stuff like that. So, the Browns have to be smart, not turn the football over, and that falls mostly on Baker Mayfield. This offense, has looked good at times this year, and it's been the biggest contention point of the entire season. When this offense looks good, it's really good. But when they struggle, when they have those quick 3-and-outs, or they turn the football over, or they commit way too many penalties, it's frustrating, and it's the opposite of what this team is able to do. So when they go in there on Sunday, they have to protect the football, have to keep the penalties at a minimum, and look, they should have a very successful offensive day against this team. And I think one of the bigger problems is for that defense is because their offense runs so many plays so quickly, the defense is out there a lot, and maybe they need to find a better balance of running the no-huddle offense and running the offense as fast as they do, along with being able to preserve their defense and preserve the freshness of those guys late in the fourth quarter, or even late in the third quarter in terms of energy. When you run a type of offense like that for 60 minutes and maybe the time of possession is 25 minutes to 35 minutes for a game, that's not going to work out well for you for the majority of the season.
Yeah, I mean, if there's one guy that they should try to avoid to a degree, Jordan Hicks, he's had 3 interceptions this year. So while the tight ends, David Njoku, Steven Carlson, Ricky Seals-Jones, whoever's out there, they should go after Hassan Reddick, but don't try to pick on Jordan Hicks because he has proven, like, you pick on him one too many times, he will bite you. But, yeah, I mean, as long as they limit the turnovers, if they could contain Suggs and Chandler Jones on the pass rush, and then on the offensive side, they can limit Kyler Murray's mobility. Mac Wilson, I'm kind of talking to you right there because Schobert will probably be covering the middle of the field, so Mac Wilson will be looking to contain Kyler. If they can do those things, there's no reason why the Browns shouldn't lose this game.
And to drive home my point about time of possession and why the defense for Arizona has really struggled, they are dead last in the league in time of possession in terms of offense this season with 26 minutes and 57 seconds.
All right, Anthony. With that, go ahead and make your prediction for Sunday's game.
Like I said earlier, this Browns team should be able to control the majority of this game, especially on offense. And I'm pretty certain that they're going to win this one. And I have the final score being 27-24 Cleveland.
And I also will pick the Cleveland Browns to win this game. I'm going to go 28-24. I just think, like, as long as we can hit that 21 to 24 points offensively, that we should definitely be able to stop Arizona's offense for sure. I mean, it's hard saying just because, Kyler Murray is so dynamic that, I mean, if he breaks a run, you see that they haven't been able to contain these mobile quarterbacks, whether it was, Brandon Allen, like you said, Ryan Fitzpatrick, although you would never thought he would be a mobile quarterback, but yet he was able to do it against our defense. This is a game the Browns should win. And if they don't win it, and obviously, the noise we talked about at the beginning of the podcast, it's only going to get louder and it's only going to frustrate Haslam even more. And it's going to make Dorsey's seat a little hot as well.
Yeah. If this game gets ugly, it could be a very not fun Monday or even Sunday night for that front office and the coaching staff.
All right, Anthony, as we get on out of here, is there anything else you want to discuss?
Nope, that should do it.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening, as always. You can follow Anthony on Twitter at Anthony Joki. That's Joki. You can follow me on Twitter at JMcCurryCLE. Check out our site, The Dogland. It's either at thedogland.com or dog.land. And follow that on Twitter at The Dogland. And as we get on out of here, we'll be back either Sunday night or sometime Monday to recap this game. And as always, as we get on out of here, go Browns.